We are back to that beautiful time of year where I can do my filming at almost any time of the day because the harsh midday light is gone. We have clouds, we have rain, the rainy season has returned. I'm already enjoying it. It's such a nice change of pace. I love the rainy season here in Nicaragua. Today, I had a question about, actually it was a month ago, and I don't even know where the question was posted. I only saw someone responding to it a month ago, so my apologies that this is an old response. But the question was, Scott, I'm looking at buying some land, and I'm unclear how I can transfer the money for it because I'm looking to make a payment that is in excess of $10,000. I don't know the amount that it totally was, but it's a relatively large purchase, and they're hitting limits of transfer of $8,900 into the country, and so they're wondering what they can do to make that purchase. So this shouldn't be as hard as it seems. We're going to go over ways that people use practical payments for land, houses, cars, and so forth when they are not Nicaraguans, but their source of money is outside the country and they're purchasing large things, like those things, here in Nicaragua. So we're going to get to that right after the bump. So like with anything, anywhere, making payments for things is somewhat flexible. Even if you are American, you live in the United States, and you're purchasing something else in the United States, we still have that, hey, can I pay with credit card? Hey, can I send you a check? Hey, can I do a bank transfer? You got Venmo? What about Zelle, right? Everyone has a different thing that they want to use to move money around, and sometimes you just resort to PayPal or handing someone cash. So even in the simplest of situations, you have a variety of means that you use to pay someone, and all of that is when you aren't going through international transfers. You're not worried about getting between national borders. You're not worried about going through money laundering checks and so forth. For those who are not aware, if you hit $10,000 moving between countries, you automatically have to go through an audit for money laundering. It doesn't mean you're in trouble. It's nothing like that. It's just that they have to put extra security in place and check things more diligently, because that's an amount of money that starts to become risky. That's all there is to it. So if you're transferring large amounts of money, assume there's going to be these extra checks. So a lot of places don't want to deal with anything that large or too close to it, so they put in extra limits. So let's talk about some practical ways that people do payments to each other here in Nicaragua, assuming the money's coming from outside the country. If it's already in Nicaragua, then none of this applies. It's the simplest things, just do a bank transfer or deposit, and you're good to go. But if it is coming from the outside, there are some complications, but it's generally pretty simple. And some people will have their own little, hey, I figured out I can use this or that. And of course, there's all those newfangled kind of one-off situations like, hey, the person that I'm working with is totally cool with Bitcoin. I wanted to pay because I have Bitcoin, or I can easily get Bitcoin from wherever my funding source is. Maybe it started as Bitcoin. So can I pay that way? Absolutely. Bitcoin's completely legal. It's not an official currency here, like it isn't anywhere, but you're totally allowed to use it just like you could in the United States or El Salvador, where it's legal, just not official. Right. So we're absolutely the same as El Salvador and the United States in that sense for cryptocurrencies and a lot of other mechanisms like that. So before we dig into all that, just real quick, if you want to sponsor the show or you want to get any information, you want to contact me, you want to get on our social media, you want to send in a video question, reminder, please send in video questions. Get down in the show notes. Everything you need to know is down there. Very easy to take a phone and video yourself and just send me the video using WeTransfer. Everything's in the show notes, and we'll put you on the show. Love it when you guys do that. And, of course, leave a comment. All right. So normally, if you're going to be moving money into the country for a payment, you're simply, it's your bank account. Let's just say I have Wells Fargo in the United States. That's the biggest bank in the U.S. You're moving it to BAC here in Nicaragua, the biggest bank that we have here. Then what would you do? Well, the standard thing is to do a wire transfer. This is a very normal mechanism that we use all over the world. If you've never done international transfers, you may never have had to deal with a wire transfer before. It is a little bit unusual, but it's not a big deal. And even my credit union in the U.S. lets me do wire transfers. I do it between U.S. banks from time to time. So it's not just an international thing. But if you're never transferring between institutions, maybe you've never seen it. But I do use it on a regular basis, domestic and foreign. So you can do a foreign transfer from your bank to whoever you're paying. Let's just say that, Juan here is selling you a house. It's $100,000. You have $100,000 in your Wells Fargo account. You can just go in, fill out the wire transfer document, and send the money to him. It's going to take a couple days, and because it's over $10,000, it's going to have a delay because of that extra check. They need to do what's known as know your customer, and they have to verify where that money is coming from. If it's come from your salary, if it's come from an investment account, it's going to be super easy. If you suddenly put it all in cash a day before you transfer it, you may have to answer some questions, but that's generally the case with anything. It has nothing to do with Nicaragua. Nicaragua. That is the U.S. that is checking why your money is leaving the country, and is it really your money, and what have you been doing with, a dry cleaning business on the side with suitcases full of cash, and are there dead bodies in concrete somewhere? Those are things they want to know. But as long as you have reasonable sources of your money, it's going to be no problem at all. In some cases, they're not even going to talk to you about it. It's going to be so clear where it came from. It's going to be like, yeah, whatever, we're good. And they're going to send the money. And it's that easy. You just transfer money from where you need to go to where it needs to end up. That's it. Or where it needs to come from to where it needs to end up. And those worries about limits, like $8,900 a month, that's not a real limit. That is a limit that someone's bank is putting on their transfers. So the answer there is just get a bank that lets you do the job that you need to do. Most commercial banks are not going to give you any kind of hassle, but some small credit unions and similar may have issues. And in some cases, it's not your bank, it is the clearinghouse that they use. For example, my credit union is perfectly happy to send money to Nicaragua, but their clearinghouse refuses to do business with Nicaragua, so they're unable to. That's my credit union, but my commercial bank, no problem, no limits, anything I need to do. So it's very, very easy in that case. Another thing that comes up a lot, a surprising amount that you may not expect at all, is that many times you have people who are here in Nicaragua but also have accounts in the US and Canada, or Canada. And with that, very often they're completely happy to take payment in those countries, especially because it remains pretty opaque to Nicaragua. So if they're trying to maybe not report all of their taxes, or maybe they don't want people to know where the money's going, or they whatever reason they have for wanting that money outside the country, they're perfectly happy to have the money stay outside the country. And that's completely legal, at least the transfer bit. The part on your side's legal. What they're doing, we can't say. But it is super common. So if you're buying a house here, easily for expats, right? If you're a Nicaraguan and you're buying a normal Nicaraguan house in the barrio, the chances that the person you're purchasing it from is going to have an account in the U.S. is less than 1%. But if you're an expat buying a house that is of interest to an expat, and you're buying from a person who's selling a house of interest to an expat, the chances that they're going to have an external account is much closer to 50%. So it is very common, totally normal, that when you discuss how you're going to make the payment, that they'll be like, oh, let me just give you my U.S. bank account, and you can just do an ACH transfer, or a domestic wire transfer, or Venmo, or whatever. Venmo doesn't normally let you do enough to buy a house, but you get the idea. You can do anything you would because it's a totally U.S. payment, or U.S. Canadian payment, whatever. You have a banking system that's very fluid. You can also do things with bank accounts here in Nicaragua. This generally doesn't make sense, but sometimes people have extra limits, or they just want the flexibility of holding cash in Nicaragua. Generally, we advise against this. Not that you shouldn't go get a bank account. Sure, go do that. And not that you shouldn't have any cash here, but holding large amounts of cash anywhere, especially moving it before you need it, generally a bad idea. But if you know you're going to be buying a car, you know you're going to spend at least $30,000, and you have a bank account in Nicaragua, maybe you want to start moving that money into Nicaragua ahead of time. And then if you do have limits with your bank, you can only move $9,000 a month. Well, you've got a little while. Start moving $9,000 in every month and get that cash here and use it when it makes sense, and just have it locally prepared. Some people will do that. Generally, that's not worth the effort, because if you really need money, you have to work around that. And if you get the amounts wrong, or it tries to move too fast, it just isn't ready. It's way too cumbersome for most people, but it is an option. You also can have, and this can be beneficial, by having your own bank account in Nicaragua and transferring money from yourself to yourself. A number of the checks and balances that they need to do for money laundering are much easier, right? If you're transferring to a different person, let's just say it's a car dealer or someone selling you a house, that person is not you. And so they have to know who you are. They have to know that the money you're moving is really yours, and they need to know where it's going, that it's a legitimate action. But if you're moving it to your own bank account, they really don't, because they know it's just you shuffling money around, and if you aren't supposed to have it, you're already not supposed to have it. It's too late, you already have it, right? It's just one fewer transactions going on at that time. When you pay someone else in Nicaragua, they can do whatever checks and balances they want at that time. That's up to them, and they probably will. But it's easier because it's all domestic. They see where the money's coming from, they know where it's going to. Easy. And so you've got a couple different ways you can go, but you really don't have to worry too much. Some people do run into hassles. It does happen that you have people who just have bank accounts that don't allow much, and I know Canadians have a much harder time than Americans, simply because the Canadian banking infrastructure isn't up to par with the U.S. one, and even the U.S. one. Sometimes you do run into problems, but generally it's really strong, and it's pretty rare that you're going to run into major problems. Pretty rare, if you're with the real banks. Again, credit unions, little local places, generally not good ideas if you're a foreign traveler. You don't have to give up those accounts. I'm not saying burn your bridges with this awesome credit union you have in your hometown. I keep my credit union, but you want to move to real enterprise accounts with big international banks, especially Swiss banks. So places like Charles Schwab, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citigroup, or Citibank. These are the types of institutions that generally give you the most power internationally. You'll want to consider having one of those accounts or two of those accounts rather than simply a credit union. But keep the credit union. You never know when it's going to come in handy to have that extra account. Whew, it's not too hot out here, but it is super humid. So that is mostly how you would transfer money. I've bought cars, I've bought houses, and all these different things come to play, and it's different every time. Sit down with the people you're going to be paying and talk about it. You also can talk to your lawyer. Your lawyer here may have an account that they can use similar to an escrow. It's not a true escrow account. We've never seen an actual escrow here in Nicaragua, but a lawyer can function much like an escrow, and that may be a good option for you as well. So you transfer your money to them, maybe ahead of time or maybe at the time, just so they hold it before the paperwork gets signed or whatever. But your lawyer will give you a lot of guidance in most of these cases as well. It's also worth noting if you have business accounts that are truly your business accounts, meaning you are a principal holding those accounts or a signatory on those accounts, generally you can use them as well, both on the U.S. side or the Canadian side, wherever, the external side and the Nicaraguan side. So that I have done. I do have accounts here that are in my name, but not personal accounts, but because they're mine, it is seen the same as being my own account, and doing transfers into them is very easy. What is often done is if you have a bank account, we'll just use BAC as the example. You move money into your account in BAC, then when that money, maybe it's needed just later the same day, maybe it's in a month, you have $30,000 sitting there and it's due, you simply do an inside the bank move between accounts, and it's not even like you've done any transaction at all, and the money's there literally instantly. And that's very, very easy. So if you're in the same institution as the person that you're paying, it makes it that much easier as well, which is generally the case. But just something to be aware of. So generally, be a little bit flexible, be ready to use a couple different mechanisms, be prepared to switch institutions or get the right institutions ahead of time so that you know that it's going to be available when you need it. We should compile a list of institutions that work really well for this. I do know that Wells Fargo works really well. I do know that Citibank works really well. I worked for Citigroup for a long time, and Citibank is a subsidiary of Citigroup. So we think of it that way, but most people are like, what's Citigroup? But people who've done this, who know you can do large transfers, that it works really flexibly, that they allow it to go to Nicaragua, hop in the notes and let us know, just so we kind of compile a list of who's having good success with different banks. And with that, thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. Support the channel, buy me a coffee, hit that join button down there, become part of our community, share on social media, tell someone about the show, and I will see all of you tomorrow.